paste, right? So this is still too dry. I am going to add the rest of my milk. It has, the past several times I've made it, taken all 3/4 of a cup of my liquid or my milk. And I just wanted to make sure it would tonight. Wanted to show you, because this is just still, this is a little too thick for what we need. The rest of this. They say the dough should be spoonable, but not pourable, okay? And it's similar to a muffin mix between a biscuit dough and a muffin. And this seems pretty good to me.
Nicole, can you zoom in on the dough?
Yeah, we will definitely show you that. So it's pretty wet, all right? I definitely couldn't pick this up and make a biscuit or anything out of it. Like they say, it's spoonable, not really pourable, okay?
It's a little thicker than pancake batter, isn't it?
It is. Yes, it is. You're right. And you may see some small little lumps in it. It's not a big deal. I mean, you shouldn't see any big dry areas or anything, but it's not completely smooth, and that's okay. So what we're going to do now is just let this dough sit. Your recipe says 15 minutes. I've done it 15 to 30 minutes, and it's been fine. And the reason we're doing that is that helps that gluten settle, and that just works much better. So that's why we went ahead and mixed this up. I'm just going to take, you can take a piece of plastic wrap. I'm just going to take just another one of my clean kitchen towels and just put that off and just move it over to the side. It's not that it's going to be rising or anything, so I don't need, it's not like I need anything warm or anything like that. I'm just getting it out of my way, okay? All right, so that part's done. And what you could do at this point too is start your water for your spätzle, okay? It calls for about 3 quarts of water. So we just have these little butane burners here so that we can show this in front of you. And I just have one of my big pots, my big metal Dutch oven. This is a 6-quart pan, or I think this is an 8-quart, I'm sorry, but it works out. I just have 3 quarts of water in here and some salt. And so I'm gonna eventually want that boiling. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put it on and I can control it. So kind of got that off to the side, and we're gonna go back to our pork. Okay, go back to schnitzel. So at this point, we're going to do our breading of our cutlets. So you might have pie pans work really well. You might have some disposable metal pans. You might have just some shallow dishes. And that's what I have right here. I'm a gadget girl, as a lot of you know, and that's what this is. This was one of those things I brought from a cooking program that a friend was doing, and it's basically for that. It's for breading food. So in the first one, I've just got in this bag a 1/2 cup of flour, all-purpose flour, nothing else. Okay, just going to kind of flatten that out. In my end one, I've got a cup of breadcrumbs. And you want finer breadcrumbs. Like I really like panko and things like that, but that's not really what a traditional cutlet like this has on it. Then in the center one, I'm going to have 2 eggs. And let's see, I got all organized there. And I'm just going to break those in here and just kind of lightly beat those up. Okay. So I'm just going to use a fork, a little whisk, you can, whatever. I'm just going to break those up. This is a good amount for 4 cutlets. probably, you could definitely get 5 out. I've always had a little bit left over. You might even get 6 if you're doing for a larger group. So half a cup, 2 eggs, and a cup of breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs aren't seasoned or anything. They're just plain. So we're gonna get our fork back out. Over here. All right. Now I had put in your directions also to have a couple different plates because again, we've already dirtied some plates. I'm gonna get this one out. This is a big one that comes with my dinner plates that I'm gonna skip. Hopefully I can get the breaded ones on here when I'm all done. So if you're good at all this, you are able, there are people that can bread with one hand. That's usually what they suggest. Or you can use tongs if you want. All right. So I like my fingers though. I'm just gonna put these in here. I want to lightly coat this with flour. If I've got a little spot there that doesn't have it, I can go in. But I am going to lift that up and shake off the excess. Okay. All right. I could go ahead and do all those, but I'm just going to go for it. Then I'm going to dip this in the egg. Both sides. Doesn't look very good, and it shouldn't. That's okay. And then I'm going right into my crumbs. And I do want to coat those good. So if I need to, I can go back in, but I have found that they do really well. They're so nice and thin, you know, they just coat up really easily. So that's it. So like I said, I'm just going to do 3 tonight. Do as many as you want. And this is the traditional, whether you're doing veal, there are people that make chicken schnitzel. So you could do that too. Like just get some boneless. I'm sure you could do thighs or breast. Oops. Pound it thin. It's all about thin cutlets. That's what the schnitzel's all about. Okay. He's good. And get our last guy. He's my big one. I'll take 2 hands for him. Okay. Put in my egg. My breadcrumbs. Okay. Hope that works for everybody, if that makes sense. This one's so big, he just barely wants to fit in here, but that's okay. I'll pull this little piece of fat off of here. All right, now I do have to wash my hands. So I'm going to get rid of my breading station. And of course, dispose of all that. All right. So now, and I've done this in an electric skillet before. Tonight, we're just going to do this in this burner so that you can see. Again, we just have a little butane burner here, but any kind of burner that you have. And I'm just going to heat up, I'm just going to do this in the skillet tonight. So our recipe just calls for a couple tablespoons of oil. And I have a couple here in my little cup here. And you're going to find these cook really quickly because, of course, they're very thin. It does recommend that you check the temperature of them. I have a real fine thermometer here that's a quick read that I will show you. Every time I've done them, they've been way over the at least 145 that's recommended on that. So you should be good with that. So I'm going to just put a couple tablespoon or so of oil in here. I'm going to be able to do 2 at a time, of course. And that's why I also had you, I asked you to have a baking sheet available because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go turn my oven on to 200 degrees just to keep them hot. This goes together really quickly and the spatula goes really quickly. But with the group, I didn't know if it would take us a little bit longer. So I'm going to, after I fry these, I'm just going to place them in my oven to keep them hot, just for illustrating to you tonight. So again, I just at 200 degrees, they're going to be done. I just want to keep them hot. So I'm going to get this heated up. When you look at some real traditional schnitzel recipes, often they call for a lot more fat than this. And of course, we know that we don't want to have a lot of extra fat. But the reason they do that is a traditional schnitzel has kind of an airier coating. Our coating's gonna be stuck right next to the pork and it's delicious and I like it fine. But you may have had it out at a German restaurant and the coating kind of puffs up a little bit. That's because they cook them in a lot of oil and they kind of swoosh them around in the pan and the oil floats over them. But again, I really don't want all that extra added fat. So I've got my pan on a medium heat. It's nice and hot. I'm just going to do a real gentle. Yeah, I can hear that. Okay. And let's start with these two. Just be careful when you put it in. You always want to kind of put it away from you. All right. And I find that you may have this on your stove at home, but these burners have kind of a tilt on them. So I'm going to be moving this around just a little bit, just for that reason though, because I do want them to fry up nice. But they take about 2 minutes per side, 2 to 3 minutes, not that long. I'm just going to put a little more fat in here, just so I get a nice coating on them. We're going to do them on one side, flip them over, do them on the other side, then I'll check the temperature. Then I'm going to put them on that baking sheet so that I can do the other one. And if you're doing more than that, you can do that, and then we'll stick them in the oven to keep them hot.
Nicole, can you do a close-up on the skillet?
Everybody doing good at keeping up so far? I think we're going at a good pace from what I can tell with those cameras on. We're doing good.
Awesome. Thank you. Wonderful. Yeah, please feel free to let us know. Okay. I do usually actually watch my clock to try to see. Whoops, because you don't want to do what I just did and mess up the coating. Just leave it alone. We call that peekaboo chef at our house. We want to doing that. Make sure my water is heating over here from my spatula. Mine's just starting to simmer. It's got a little ways to go. Fine, I'm not ready for it anyway. So I don't know if any of you have made this before, but I hope you will continue to make it. It's just a really simple recipe, and I do feel like it's economical. Beef is just so high right now. I mean, no meat is cheap, but pork is a little bit more reasonable.
What temperature are you aiming for, Kathy?
We want to have it at least 145. That's for what they would consider medium. Let me see my terminology right here. Yeah, 145 to medium rare, but that's considered sufficient for pork for safety purposes. 160 for medium. But like I said, I have always been way over because of these cooking so thin, cooking real thin. Okay, here we go. Ooh, that's the way I want it. Okay. So I have found, again, sometimes, especially when I use the electric skillet, that's why I don't put all the fat in at the beginning. Sometimes I just need a little bit because sometimes that other side doesn't seem to get it, right? So sometimes I just do that, add a little bit more. And we'll just cook those. So, I think it's got a real nice appearance. It's just lightly browned, crispy. We want it to be crispy. And again, if you want it really puffy, traditional, you've got to have at least, probably at least a half a cup of oil in this pan. But we're trying not to add a lot of extra fat. We don't need to. It's really tasty the way it is. So when you go to serve this, I don't know, we just grew up very traditional, I think, with my dad, he just liked meat, potatoes, and vegetables, right? But there's some sauces I've seen that people eat with these, some berry sauces, some apple type of sauces, that some people actually like to kind of dip it in. You know, it's up to you. It's up to you, whatever works on you. Let's see what our other side is doing. Needs a little bit more. I'm going to put him back in there. And again, I feel like my second side never does as good as my first. I think that's because it's been freshly oiled, right? But let's go ahead and take the temperature of this one. Now, I'm going to have to go in through the side, of course. Luckily, I don't have any bone to worry about, but I don't want to, of course, touch the pan. So I'm going to have to lift this out. I'm going to stick it, get into the middle here. So I'm going to mess this up a little bit, but just so you can see. And so that's already at 159 degrees. So, you know, I'm there, I'm good. And that's always been that way when I've made these. So I'm going to take him out. I'm going to put him on my pan. I've got him on my baking sheet. I don't have anything on the baking sheet. Look at this guy. I might leave him in there just another minute because I'm going to add my other one. So again, I'm going to add 10 more oil. And this is the big one. So he's going to take more room. So that was the tenderloin. Those were the loins. They're both delicious. They're both really mild. I'm sure you've had both those before. They're just, you know, whatever you might find a good deal at the store, right? That's why I am when I go looking for recipes. Those will work. I haven't tried the chicken. I think I would like the chicken really well. You know, it's very basic. All right, we're going to just get rid of this pan because it had the raw pork on it. Okay. Also, sometimes I'll just use a spatula too. So, any questions on the schnitzel? So that, you know, that's really it in a nutshell. I'm gonna look and make sure I didn't forget to tell you anything that I want to tell you about it.
One thing that I would just mention too, Kathy, like you said, you could do chicken. You could do, if you didn't want pork or you didn't eat pork, regardless of what you were cooking, this, if you prepared some of it and pounded it the day before and you breaded it, like you said, it's a very quick meal.
It certainly is. You're right, Kenna. And you saw that really didn't even take me that long while I was here. But yeah, if you got it done, awesome. I'm going to show you right now. So as I've been experimenting and playing with this recipe, I did prepare some ahead of time and freeze it. I just wanted to show you that. So really, we just take them from that position of right before I started cooking them. I have two in here that I like to wrap in freezer paper. I just think it keeps better, at least it does in mine. And so I just write on here 2 schnitzels and I put the date on there. Here are a couple more that I did in a plastic bag. Each one's got a freezer bag. That'll work well too. And you can see, these are 2 of them. I just put, I had some parchment, or if you got wax paper, that I put between the 2. And I just stuck them in a freezer bag. So get those out the night before, store them, you know, have them thawing in your refrigerator, and you got a quick dinner when you get home. Put that back away.
Kathy, we have a quick question. Have you ever experimented with one in an air fryer?
You know what? I haven't. I would think it would work just fine. I just don't use my air fryer as much as I should. But and the other thing is mine's not very big, you know, and that's why I need the big of the skillet. But I really don't see any reason why it wouldn't work for our purposes. Should do just fine.
Someone asked earlier if you thought it would work in an Instant Pot.
Unless there's a way to get it really crisp that I'm not aware of.
I think the only thing you could probably do Instapot wise is use it as your frying pan, because a lot of them have that browning.
Okay.
Do it. I don't think you would want to actually do the whole process in it. More of that frying process that's making it.
Okay. And remember, guys, you know, this is we're not really having to do anything special to this pork. You know, it's tender. You know, it just needs a quick cook. Okay. So there they are. I'm gonna just set them in the oven to keep them warm. And let's go back to our spätzle, okay? Any other questions on tenderloin or loin or chicken or anything else that we're gonna make our meal out of? All right. So
Everybody got their pork done and ready to go?
everybody in a good position with that?
See some people checking temperatures. Good thing.
It should be good. I'm gonna clean my area a little bit here. This is when you want to have your hot soapy water ready, because when we get done with this pan, we're gonna have this dough and it turns to paste very quickly because it's basically flour, water, and egg, right? So if you get it soaking, it just makes cleanup a little bit of a breeze. I did read where you could take your pan and spray it with a little spray oil and that also helps with cleanup too, but I traditionally haven't done that. So a little bit about the spätzle. Your publication talks a little bit about it, and they say it's like little sparrows was the thought of the design on them, and that's how they came out. So here's our dough. It really doesn't look any different. It really shouldn't. Okay. And also, if you remember, we started with 3 cups of flour and 3 eggs. I have made this with 1 cup of flour and 1 egg. You know, if you don't want to make a lot, you certainly don't have to. So let's talk about how we're gonna make this now. So you've got some options. We tried to put them in your information before you started the class for tonight. But like this is a piece from Instapot or electric pressure cooker that is used for the steaming part. And what we're after is 1/4-inch holes. All right, so that would work. Wouldn't work with this pan, but if I had a smaller pan, I could use this. I could set that over the top, and I'll demonstrate in a minute. This is a ricer that I have, and I have used this, and it works really well too. Mine has 2 or 3 different circles that come with it of different widths, and if I use my biggest one, they turned out well too. All right. This is the spätzle pan that I just purchased online. It came with this scraper for making the noodles, and it also came with the skimmer or the scooper if you need that. I have found that to be really easy, and I will use that a lot, but it's certainly nothing you have to run out and purchase. It also recommends that you can make your own pan. I just took a part of this one and just poking holes in it in a foil pan. Got 1/4-inch holes. You could do the whole thing, but I was just kind of doing a part as I was practicing and doing it that way. So I'll show you all of them. But they cook really quickly. Because again, we got our boiling water with just a little bit of salt in here. By the time I've gotten back to them, they're done. They float to the top when they're done. Okay, so let's just start our pan here. Okay, so I'm gonna do is set that on there. All right, if you've got a smaller pan, that'll work too. Okay, and you don't want to put all the dough on here at the beginning. We'll just start with I got about 1/3 of it probably right here. Just take a scraper. You could take a spatula, anything will work. And I'm just going to push it in. And so what's happening is all those little holes are cutting all my little spätzles, my little sparrows, into the noodles.
Can you hold up the part and show us the bottom as it's coming out?
I'm gonna do that in a minute, okay?
Okay.
I'm gonna make you wait. Because I'll show it to you. But I just want to show you, you just kind of do this till you get most of it cleaned off. And that's why, again, you don't want to have to put it all on the top. I have have seen people chill these in between if they get too hot. I haven't had a big issue with that. But yeah, as they're coming through, since this dough is really moist, they don't really hang. I don't want them to. You know, I want them to fall right into my water. Let me just finish this right here. Good enough. And there they are. And they are done. Once they float to the top, they're done. So love it. I did forget to get a bowl. Let me do that. Okay. And I want that water to keep simmering. So I don't know if you can see, that's the little sparrows. That comes out of here. So at this point, you can salt and pepper them if you want. We do put a little butter on ours because buttered noodles is one of our favorite family things. But that is it. That's how to make spätzle. Okay. Now I'll do a little bit in this pan. I do find it much more difficult, but it can be done. So I'm just going to set that on there. That's why I just kind of tilted it so maybe you can see it. Okay, so kind of the same concept. I'm just going to take my scraper and push it through those holes. So as you can imagine, I could have put holes all the way through here, but I just want to be able to show you. The other thing I found, this gets much hotter because it doesn't fit my pan as well. So just keep a pot holder handy. You're gonna probably need it. But you can probably see now. I just find that this doesn't come through as well.
Kathy, is your water boiling underneath there?
Water is, yeah, it is boiling. It's simmering right now. I do want to keep it boiling.
Yep.
Going a little crazy before, so I turned it down. But now it's so just work this way, you know, working this through. I started to tell you before, my grandma was so good. All she did was take the edge of the bowl and take a teaspoon, and she was able to just cut in nice little pieces. She just had the touch. So I'm gonna aspire to that. But I do have my pan now. So.
Yep. You also, if you maybe would have a vegetable steam pan, sometimes they have holes in it.
Yeah.
Look around.
Yeah. You're right. There are a lot of little things. I also read if you got like a really large slotted spoon, I think it's some of the, maybe those commercial ones, you know, they have big holes that could work as well. Okay. But I will show you. So here's mine from those. So they're done. I mean, that's how quick. So that's why usually when I make the schnitzel and the spätzle, I don't need to put the pork in the oven because this cooks up just so quickly. But I just wanted to do that's kind of hard with the group, you know, to do that. But like I said, I'm going to attempt and totally embarrass myself. And Grandma's probably shaking her head right now up in heaven. But she could literally just take a little spoon and just cut little noodle, you know.
Maybe not a spatula.
Yeah. I do need something. I need something other than that. She could just use a little spoon. And just cut them in. Yeah, I'm not gonna embarrass myself. You get it. Okay. So that's the spätzle. I got a little bit left, but I'm done. That makes plenty for my household. So like I said, we will just have that with noodles. All right, let's get our schnitzel out. Of course, I got the prettiest one out and plated up. Your publication talks about besides the fact that I mentioned about sauces, but it talks about traditionally this is often served with lemon slices and some parsley, just some things to get some color. So, you know, it's a pretty quick dinner. If you're not doing it with a lot of other people, it comes together pretty easily. So I hope everybody's turned out pretty good. I've got some other things I want to share with you, but are there any other things, questions?
Have you kept your spouts? I can't say it right. Spatzel after, like it says, eat immediately. Like some of them might be doing it tonight and going to eat this tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thanks for asking that. Because I want to share something else. So we had it last night because I had to practice again. And so here's some I had, and it was fine. I could easily, you know, just heat this up. I mean, that's fine for a couple days. But something our family always did was cook it the next morning and put eggs over the top. So I was thinking about this. We have the very German name of noodles with egg over the top. That's what we call it. And it often became a thing that mom would fix sometimes too if we were sick because it's very mild. So what we basically do is just take those cooked dumplings, fry them up in a pan. I mean, little spray oil or maybe just a little butter, something like that. And then literally just break a couple eggs over the top and cook them in there. So that's what I have. I cooked this up just about an hour or so ago. It may not look as good, but it's a great breakfast and something that's really filling in a way that it's a great way to use up that leftover spatula. But it's good for a couple days. It's, similar to cooking your packaged noodles. As long as it's cooked, they'll be good for 2-3 days. They'll be fine. I've never frozen them. The thing about these, they're really airy. And I hope you notice that those of you that are making them, they're much more airy than a traditional noodle. And it's because they have all those eggs in them, and we let that settle and we let that gluten develop a little bit. So they're really delightful, I think. Okay.
I'm gonna say something real quick if that's okay.
Sure.
The pan top that Kathy used, there's 2 that we will be giving away as a door prize for attending this session. But here's the catch. If you want to win one of these 2 and have your own and not have to makeshift with something else, you will need to send me a picture. Most of you I've reached out through an email. I want to see a picture of your finished product, and I want one comment on how it tasted, something you learned, something. So send me a photo to my email, and then I'll probably do a collage of photos and post them on Facebook pages and stuff too. So if you want in the drawing for this,
Awesome.
2 of them.
That is great. A couple of things.
Kathy?
I'm sorry.
Someone wants to know, after the schnitzel is cooked, about how long can you keep it in the refrigerator and how well does that keep?
It does. I'd just say 2-3 days. After about 3 days, it needs to go. Okay. Something else I was going to share, I mentioned about using the ricer, and that worked out really good. The other issue with it is, I've got more dirty more dirty pieces. That soaking does take that out. But if you use the ricer, when we use the traditional spatula pan, we get these little short noodles, of course, and when we use that ricer, they get really long because you're pushing it through all those holes. Okay, just so you know, it's no big deal. It's just a little bit of difference in those. Also, your recipe calls for optional adding oil to the water, and that's supposed to help with for keeping sticking. And I've never had that be an issue, and I never put oil in mine. I never have. So, but that's up to you. That's another option. Let's see.
Kathy,
Yeah.
Can you repeat how to reheat the noodles?
Yeah. So if I'm just going to reheat the noodles by themselves, I usually just microwave them. They just heat up really nicely. Just don't overdo it. I don't put them back in boiling water or anything. I really just microwave them. Unless I'm going to do, as I mentioned with the eggs, then I heat them up in the skillet with just a little bit of oil or a little bit of butter, get them heated up, and I literally break a couple eggs in there and just scramble them until the eggs are done.
And does the spatzel freeze well?
I have not frozen it, and I don't think it would be the same. I mean, as we always say, you can freeze anything and you can certainly give it a try, but you know, it has such a nice airy texture. And I think when you freeze that and then thaw it, you're gonna lose a lot. So it's not my recommendation to freeze. Okay. I'm gonna show a couple of the other recipes, okay, but I'm open to more questions. A couple of the other recipes in your publication. One is the braised cabbage, the German braised cabbage. And it talks about doing that. It calls for red cabbage. It also calls for a Granny Smith apple. So it's kind of, you know, cabbage apple mixture. You can do it stovetop, an hour and a half or two, or you can do it slow cooker. I did mine in the slow cooker. And it turned out beautifully, but I will say my apples are gone. You know, I had it cooking, you know, I had it probably on about 3 hours and it's plenty done. But you can do that a couple days in advance too, and just reheat it. And it's good to go. It's vinegar based, of course, very German, very preserved. So that is in your publication, really good. There's a Bavarian potato salad that I did. I did do this in advance and it's been chilled. So it may not look as good, but it calls for Yukon Gold potatoes. I did not peel the potatoes. You can if you want to, but I will say most of them, as I cooked the potato chunks, the potato skin pretty much came off anyway, especially after I added the dressing. So it's a bacon vinegar dressing, kind of your typical German hot slaw. And it can be served hot or cold. And it was quite good. We enjoyed that a lot. Let's see, there's a recipe in there for pretzel bread. I did not get to making, but it sure looks good and it tastes good, I'm sure. And I can't believe I didn't get the Black Forest cake done. Those of you that know me and my chocolate, I just couldn't do it. So, but anyway, you've got that recipe as well. So lots of things to enjoy. Let's see, one other thing I want to share with you food-wise is geta. Okay, so if you're from northern Kentucky, you know about geta. So this is a package. I'm not promoting it. Lear's is in Kenton County. It's in Covington, and they always give it to me if I need it for a class. So I'm sharing that. But Bluegrass sells geta. Finke's Market sells geta. A lot of places make their geta. But you can see it's G-O-E-T-T-A if you're not familiar with it, but it is pronounced geta. So geta is thought to be a German immigrant food from this area. They really can't find a definite area or source in Germany itself that makes geta. They make similar things, but not like we did. So they really think it was a dish that the immigrants put together. So I have some I made up ahead of time too. It comes out of the roll like this. You can also buy it in flats, like in a brick and slice it. And it's not really appetizing looking. I'm going to show you, talking about the ingredients in a minute, but then you fry it up. It fries up wonderful, crispy, and it's delicious, yummy. So when I was a kid, it was always a breakfast food. If you've been around the area, you know we have Geta Fest. And so Geta Fest is Geta pizza and Geta nachos and Geta egg rolls and Geta everything. So it's very much a part of our heritage here in northern Kentucky and Cincinnati. So to make it, my grandmother made geta, my mom made geta, my sister makes geta. They always did it on the stove top. Some people do it in the crock pot. And everybody has kind of different recipes, but the basic recipe is often pork and beef that is cooked together, and then some spices. Some people put onions and bay leaves and different things in it. But the big thing is about the oats, and that's what makes people say, oh, it's like scrapple. And if you're from up in the east, it's not. Scrapple is usually cornmeal based as far as the grain, and this is oats. So I just wanted to give you a little mini lesson about oats. Once the oats have their outer kernel removed, you end up with what they call a groat. And that's the German word for oats, and is the groat. And if you've made oatmeal before and you've used old-fashioned oats before, what they do is they take that groat and they steam it and they roll it. And I'm sure you've noticed they're little flat discs, okay? So that they're a little bit easier and a little bit quicker to cook, okay? So they might take about 15 minutes or so to cook. If you've had instant oats, it's the same concept. It's still that whole grain that has had the outer kernel removed, but it is processed more. It is steamed more. It is flattened out more, so that it usually cooks in about a minute. What Geta takes is what we call pinhead oats or steel cut oats. When I was a kid, we always called it pinhead oatmeal. And you could only find it in the winter because, again, that was about the only time we made Geta. But steel cut oats have become very popular. We know they're very healthy. And you cannot use these other oats in your Geta because it will turn to a brick. Pinhead oats are like little springs, they say. So when they cook up, and they'll just to cook these takes 20 to 30 minutes or so. When you make your Geta, it takes hours. But to get those all softened and they kind of puff up, and I feel like you can see it here in this Geta, you know, those are the steel cut oats in there. So it's really yummy. If you haven't ever had it before, it's a family favorite of ours, but you can make your own or you can buy it. Either way. But it does have to be cooked. It has to be cooked from this. This is refrigerated when you purchase it. We freeze it all the time. I usually take it and go ahead and cut it in slices, and I freeze it. And then I can just pull out a piece or two, whatever that I want. So, any questions about food or, you know what, I forgot. I've got one more picture I want to show you back. I'm going to back up to making our spatula again. We talked about the different pans, different tools, different things that you can get to make spatula. And there's one more that I don't have, shocking, because I have so many gadgets. But there's another one that you can purchase that looks like this. There we go. Where it has basically, to me, it reminds me of like a cheese grater. So it has all the holes, and then it has this little bowl on top, and you put the dough in there, and you basically then move that back and forth. So that's just another thing that some people have. You will find those easy to find as well. What I didn't like about that is that I got to keep refilling that little bowl, right? So anyway, just wanted to share that as well. Let's see. Any other questions or anything? We're at 7:45. Just a couple of little things I want to share with you about German heritage. Again, this is such a German area. Germans are attributed with bringing the Christmas tree to the US. We usually, and my family did, always celebrated Christmas on Christmas Eve. That's kind of a German tradition as well. One thing we did not do, but I have started doing it now because I've read about it, was putting a pickle on the Christmas tree. That's it's supposed to be like a little activity, and they'll hide it, and whoever gets it, finds it, gets a special prize. So that's something that might want to do, because you see, a lot of times you'll see pickle ornaments, and you'll think, why is there a pickle ornament, right? Also, let's see, Oktoberfest. Oktoberfest started in Germany originally as a celebration. It was a wedding celebration, but it went on for several days. And then they started doing it annually. And as you know, we have a large one in Cincinnati, and there's several in Kentucky, in many parts of Kentucky, just kind of celebrating the German heritage as well. Also, just if you heard of the area of over the Rhine in Cincinnati, that was an area where a lot of the Germans settled. And if you're familiar with Cincinnati, there's a road now called Central Parkway. And at one time, though, it was a canal. It was a man-made water canal. And as the Germans came to this area and they saw the lovely hills of Cincinnati, it reminded them of home. And so that's where they settled, and they called it Over the Rhine because they lived on the other side of the body of water. So that area has gone through a lot of transitions over the years. It's become very cool for the young people, and they call it OTR. So there's a lot of restaurants and things like that over there now. So that's a very German area. Mainstrasse in Covington, of course. There's the Goose Girl Fountain. There's the clock tower with the Glockenspiel. That's a very German thing. Cuckoo clocks. We had always had a cuckoo clock when I was a kid in the house. My parents did, my grandpa did. And then of course we have a lot of just landmarks in general. So we're very proud of our German heritage here, especially the food. And I hope you've enjoyed this and gotten some great information and some ideas, and plan to try it and share it with your family and friends. So do we have any other final questions?